Hey guys, Courtney Carlson here, and I hope you enjoy this conversation. I sit down with another emotional health coach and friend of mine, and we really just unravel what it's like to have ADHD and dyslexia and other mental health issues in our family and our lives and growing up, and what it looked like to mature and heal and grow. And so I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy and you take something great away from it. Yeah. So thank you for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation. We've been looking forward to it for a while. So I'm Courtney Carlson, and I am a writer and author and speaker. And I love to just bring the emotional healing that I've gotten and the breakthrough that I've gotten to lots of different platforms so that people can kind of grab onto what we've gone through. So
Oh,
anyway, hi. I'm glad that we get to sit
Courtney,
down.
how's it
I
going?
know. I'm glad that we get to have this conversation. It's been really fun for me to just connect with other coaches, and I guess we call each other thought leaders, just people that are innovative in this space of teaching other women how to have emotional breakthrough, freedom,
Yeah,
connection with themselves, self-love, like genuine self-love and care and what that looks like. And so I'm glad
yeah.
that you're here. I would love
Thank you.
for
Happy
you
to be here.
yeah, I would love for you to share a little bit of your journey and story. I know there's a lot to it, but wherever you want to start and then kind of lead us through what it's been like for you.
Yeah. Well, hi everyone. My name is Angel Theodore, and I recently coined the name I am the Self-Care Catalyst. And I just have a heart for women. I have a heart for women being able to succeed in life, thrive, and step into who they are, like who they genuinely are. I want them to be able to take off the mask. And this started for me when I was a kid. Like I won't go like, oh, a long time ago. But I grew up in a neighborhood where I was the only girl who looked like me. I was othered. I was also dyslexic and didn't know it. And because of that, I felt like I didn't have any gifts to offer the world. But as I grew up and learned, like, oh, okay, I have dyslexia, and there are many types of thought processes that God created. There's many types of beauty that God created. And so with that, I'm like, wow, like I have found this breakthrough and I've been able to step into who I am, the freedom of who I want to be, the choices I make in life. So I want other women to be able to do the same. And that's why I'm on this journey.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you and I have connected on some of that because that's really similar to my journey and story is
Yeah.
I have ADHD, I have severe dyslexia, and learning disabilities, and all things that, just came to light in as an adult, right? And so, yeah, when you're and I love globally that we're talking about this. We're having these conversations of neurodivergency and really how our brains are wired. And I had this conversation with someone the other day because it's not just like even one slice of neurodivergent. It's like
Mhm.
neurodivergent means your brain's different. And that's so
Yeah.
cool because there are, it's like Baskin Robbins. It's like 32 flavors. Like
I
everyone's
know.
so
Yeah.
unique in their expression and how God
Yeah.
made us. But yeah, I mean, some of the pain and hurt that can come from a kid being undiagnosed, or even when they have the diagnosis, doesn't make it, doesn't make the pain go away. Because I think
That's so true.
yeah, the pain really comes from those subtle isolations and rejections and overall
Yeah.
abandonment sometimes. A huge part of my story that I'm still on this like grappling with and struggling with sometimes, but is this self-abandonment part of we abandon ourselves in order to, like you just said, put the mask on, please the other
Mhm.
person. You know what I mean? Where like, it's these subtle, they're so subtle. It's like you are just a little wild in a moment and someone shoots you a look and you're like, oh, I better pull it back. Right.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you're
Like pulling
you're a
people
little,
up to the
yeah,
box.
exactly. It could be these like teeny tiny experiences where you start to shift and adjust yourself where you're like, I'm too much, I'm too little, I'm not enough, like I can't be that loud, or I need to be louder, or extroverted, I mean, it's just all these little ways that we shift in, and what we're doing is abandoning our real selves. in order to
Yeah.
bring a version that we think is more lovable. And I know I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of
Yeah.
that for years and years of like that
Can
Taylor
attest to
Swift,
that too. Yeah.
that Taylor Swift song where she talks about mirror ball. Like I'll show you all the versions of yourself tonight. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that gets me
Yeah.
because I'm like, yeah, I used to call myself a chameleon or a shapeshifter.
Same. Yeah.
Just
The
like,
be safe.
yeah,
The sign.
to be safe. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and really, it takes a lot of like unlearning the habit, and it takes a lot of like real self love.
Yeah.
Like, I love what you do with Soul Image
Mm.
365 and your self care events and
Yeah.
self love events because self love as a concept is so much deeper
Mm-hmm.
than just like the surface level self care, self love. It's like loving the person that God made you to be. Even like I'm pretty weird and loud and I can be obnoxious and like I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's like loving that version of yourself that you've hated for so long and I sometimes that's a struggle and sometimes I'm like, wow, you're really cute and I enjoy you. So it's I think it's like a lifelong journey probably of learning how to love those versions of yourself. What do you think?
You hit so many good shiny nuggets there. I think the first thing is, it's hard to love ourselves. And if we've learned to kind of put ourselves in a box or a mask for so long, it's
Mhm.
a lot of things that we need to take in baby steps. Sometimes we think change is going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
If you abandon yourself for 20 years and all of a sudden you think, I have to start choosing myself,
Yeah.
and you do it in kind of like this drastic way, it may feel shocking. So that's why it's so important to give yourself baby steps in that and start in low stake situations. As you were speaking, I was thinking of just ways to build confidence. I did a YouTube video on this a while ago. And if you have a problem speaking up in like big crowds, me, um, it can feel hard. So it's really important to practice that in low stakes situations. Practice that with people you trust. So then you can build momentum. It's like, oh, I am capable. I can do this. Like it's gonna be okay. And then you can like grow and start speaking up in bigger crowds and things like that.
Yeah.
I think something else that's important is like finding people who are like you. And I think we're in such a good space now where people are talking about like neurodivergence and all those things
Yeah.
because when I grew up, like I grew up in the 90s, I think we're around the same age. So I don't know if you
Oh
remember
yeah.
like the No Child Left Behind
Yep.
movement, like the administration. I think it was under the Bush administration. It was like No Child Left Behind.
Mhm.
But at the time, they were using only two learning styles. It was like cognitive development and like reading comprehension, something like that, right?
Yeah.
If you're an audio visual, if you learn by doing actions, all those things, your learning style wasn't being highlighted. And so it wasn't just like that I was dyslexic, but like my learning style, like
Yeah.
I'm a visual learner. Give me a movie, like, sorry, I do love to read. I love audiobooks and all those things. But I
Yeah.
didn't learn that until years ago because put a book in front of me, I'm like, I have no idea what I just read.
Right.
But give me the movie, I'm like, oh, I understand that chapter now.
Yeah.
So I think like it's really great that we're talking about this. So I think we need to find community where we feel safe to continue the conversation. So
Yeah.
um, there's like dyslexic groups on Facebook. There are places, ADH groups, ADHD groups, and things like that.
Yeah.
And this isn't to isolate yourself from anyone else, but it's to remind yourself that you're not alone. One of the biggest things I've learned is that like when you feel like you're alone or you have shame, that's going to keep isolating you. But the
Mhm.
moment you realize like, oh, you know, 1 in 3 people have this,
Yeah.
I'm not alone. I can continue to grow. And that just helps to melt the shame and the isolation away. So that's why I think it's like very important to find people that may be going through similar things that you are.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. I like that sentiment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I teach middle school during the week and the kids, it's cool to see their generation. They're having these conversations more. And there is like a little bit less of a stigma or shame around like I have ADHD or I have dyslexia. And it's actually kind of a cool connection point for me because I'll be like, oh, or if I'm reading in front of the class or writing on the board, like I'm the teacher. I'm not supposed to know everything, but I'm leading them through to information, but I will spell things wrong or I'll, say things wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll say like, oh, they know, like my students know that I'm severely dyslexic. And I have probably
Yeah.
I don't know, 5 to 10 students that are also dyslexic and
Yeah.
also have ADHD. And so it's kind of like this normal thing that I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, like I'm dyslexic, and I'll just keep reading. And the kids will be like, yeah, me too, and their faces light up. Or they'll say, I have ADHD, and they're kind of like downtrodden about it. And I'm like, I do too. And
Yeah.
they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, like look around my classroom. Like it's a little bit
Yeah.
messy. It's a little, there's a lot going
Yeah.
on. It's very
Yeah.
colorful. I'm very colorful. It's
Yeah.
just, and I love that conversation about not just awareness, but acceptance and,
Yeah.
and learning how to teach the younger generation how you learned. I love that you brought that up. I did horrible in middle school and high school. I didn't go to college until I was 26 because I really struggled. I really thought, like, I can't learn. I can't read. Like, I'm horrible at this. And,
Yeah.
but when I put myself back in college at 26, it was like this moment of, like, I'm going to do this. But really, the gift I gave myself was I learned how I learned. And that
Mhm.
was huge for me because I've gone on
Yeah.
to like get my undergraduate, but then I figured out like what I need to do to process information, just like you with the movies. Like I'm tactile, so I need someone to explain it to me.
Yeah.
I need to go do it. So I can't tell you how much I've learned on YouTube. I mean, I think
Me
I have
too.
like a doctorate in YouTube University because
Me
I
too.
people there's so many people that will teach you the things that you want to know. Like I've looked up emotional health stuff. Like I've struggled with codependency
Yeah.
with my family or enmeshment or these concepts that I'm like, okay, YouTube. And then some lovely coach
Yeah.
walks you through like this is enmeshment. And I'm like watching the video like, oh my goodness, this is me. And then or I've used it for content creation, how to self-publish my book, how to work with Canva. I've used it for financial advice, like how do you
Yeah.
invest in it? What's a Roth IRA? I mean, no matter where you are, and you don't have to go to YouTube, but I think it's important to learn yourself in a way that I kind of encompass it with self empowerment. That's how I looked at it. I'm like, oh, I know how to get information to me in a way that benefits my life. And I
Yeah.
also learned how I express myself in this world. Like, I do
Yeah.
love to write. I do love to talk and share and have these conversations. And I think before, where it was like, reviews like Courtney doesn't stop talking. Like, this is high school and middle school.
Oh,
Courtney
yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
stop talking. And I think about that sometimes because I'm like, yeah, now I'm an adult. Bless you. That I'm an adult now that doesn't stop talking because
Yeah.
I'm literally a speaker and I write and I teach all day and I connect with my family and I have coffee with a friend. And it's something that was like kind of framed in a bad light about me is actually a gift that God gave me. And I think about that sometimes because pivotal adults in our world can either kind of like add shame to a place or kind of set us free in a moment. Um,
Yeah.
and if you didn't have that, if you're like us too, there are ways to go back and do that for yourself. Like
Yeah.
that's part of that empowerment piece. So it's all encompassing. You don't have to be like, a child to go back and get this. But I think it's twofold. Adults can benefit from helping their younger selves in this area. And then we as adults can help the younger generation with these things
Yeah.
as well.
I agree. And it's definitely twofold. And one way, if you're like, oh, I didn't have this stuff growing up, one cool way you can do it is find certain movies. So another thing about me, I grew up without a dad. We won't go down that road. Like he's
Okay.
around, but he was kind of virtual. All we really do is talk on the phone.
Okay.
but didn't have a dad there.
Mm.
And one cool way that you can kind of go back and that I went back to get this healing is I found really positive movies that had good dad figures in them. And this isn't my idea. There's another course through two consultants, Abby and Justin Stumple. It's actually called the Father Series. But one thing they did is they wrote down a list of all these movies with positive father figures or just positive men to
Yeah.
go watch. So I did watch This Is Us. Oh man,
Uh,
get your tissues for that. But just like the men in that show is just very, very positive, very enlightening, very encouraging. And that was great because it also helped me wipe the view that I had of God off. Because a lot of times we have our dad's face on God. The way our dad showed up for us subconsciously, we're putting that
yeah,
on God. And
absolutely.
so I felt like he was distant. I felt like he was mad all the time. That was also from some of my church upbringing. But watching This Is Us and seeing like how the men were patient with their significant others or things like that really helped. Um, so if there's a place in your life you feel like you have a void, I encourage you to Google, movies that have positive XYZ,
Yeah.
or find books, whatever your learning style is. So
Yep.
I think that's really important. And I'm not diagnosed with ADHD, but I did just lose my train of thought. So,
That is
yeah.
some of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I think that's a really important message is we have this like neuroplasticity where our brains can be rewired and
Yes,
they can heal and
yes,
they can have different trains of thought and different pathways of thought. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort, especially when our thoughts are connected to some kind of emotion behind it. That makes it a little bit, you kind of have to address the emotional wound and part as you're addressing the mental pathway and whatever. But I do love that God made us to heal. Physically we can heal from our a cut, but he made our brains to heal and he made our hearts to heal. And it's really cool that we are like opening up to more and more people can lead us through that healing, where it may have been isolated to physical type, doctors and things. And therapists help some too, but there's just a bigger conversation going on talking about emotional healing and heart healing and mental healing and how to change your mindset. I love getting on Instagram and seeing all the coaches and mentors and ads for different things because it's just so it's right there. It's like
yeah,
nobody has to stay isolated or in pain, like you were saying before. It's like you could just join a group and kind of be a passive member, and that's great. Like I've done those before too. Or you could jump in and hire that person that you see that ad. I mean, that's how we met the program we were in. I don't know where you saw your ad, but I think I was on YouTube, and it was like they were speaking to
um,
me, and so I clicked on it and joined the program. And it's just you never know the situations you're going to put yourself in that God already
yeah,
has that freedom and breakthrough for you. I'm always in
it's
awe of that, of how God's like already there before I even knew
yeah,
that I was going to go that weekend or before I knew I was going to sign up. He's like, she's going to sign up. And when she
yeah.
gets there,
I'm waiting for you.
yeah, he's like, I'm going to lead her. And when she gets there, she's going to have massive breakthrough and massive freedom and massive fun. He's just, I love,
He's good. He's
he's a
good.
good
I
guy.
remember that too. Um, okay, no, don't leave. Okay, so my thought was to
Cool.
also, I was gonna highlight that you as a teacher, just the positive
Mhm.
impact that's having on those kids that may have dyslexia or ADHD. You can be that safe person for them, and like who knows up to this point if they had someone that believed in them or someone that they could relate to. And I think that's really amazing. And that's something I do kind of with like the bottom umbrella of my business. I don't know. But like my philanthropic promise is to help the next generation of girls because I don't want them to have to go through the pain of healing if possible. If I can instill the values of confidence in them, if I could instill the values of how to regulate your nervous system, especially through the age of 6 to 12, because that's when you're in your cognitive development. That's when your brain is like a sponge and you're just taking in messages, taking them in left and right. And when there's no filter or there's no one to be like, hey, you have just a different way of learning. Your way of learning is good enough. Like you are good enough on your own. You are beautiful. You are smart. You are intelligent. If there's no one instilling those values or filtering out the negative, then they're going to have to go through the healing. And it's a lot harder to heal than it is just to have those values instilled in you.
It's true.
It's capable. You can do it. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen overnight. I remember Abby Stumble, the consultant I mentioned earlier, she talked about how she had a great experience at a camp. She thought she was going to be healed from things. Like she had that Jesus high, right? And then she got back and she started feeling suicidal again. Like she's talked about this publicly, so I
Yeah.
can't do. And so she talked to her youth pastor and she's like, what happened? Like I went to camp, I had this amazing experience, and now I'm still having these thoughts. And he said, when you went to camp, you were healed in that moment, but now you have to change the habit of your thought or something along those lines. So every time the thought of suicide or like, I want to die came up, first she just started saying no, right? And then, like, over time, she was able to say, no, I don't. Then over time, she was able to say, no, I don't. I want to live. And then that thought just kind of went like a cloud and she didn't notice it.
Yeah.
And full transparency, that took her 4 years. Now, not everything you're going through is going to take 4 years. There's ways to speed up the process, and that's why like mentorship and coaching is so important. Because you have like a community and you have people who can lead and guide you through the process. You don't have to do it on your own, but it doesn't happen overnight. And I know Courtney and I, we still have things that come up. We haven't mastered everything. But everything that we're giving you advice on, we have to do for ourselves as well. It's kind of like maintenance. And over time, you can do a little bit less, but it's not going to happen overnight. And I'm very big on authenticity. So I don't want someone to think like, oh, I can change or rewire my brain in one night or
Yeah.
even a month or even 3 to 6 months. And I mean, if God wants to heal you miraculously, then hey, but if you've been thinking a certain way for so long, the brain elasticity, it's making ruts. Just think of like you're digging a hole, or like digging in a garden, making a line. It's going to take time to fill it in and let that dirt kind of settle. It's going to take time to start digging somewhere else because you got to fill in the part that you were digging in first, and then you have to start digging somewhere else. And
Mm.
that's why I just want to be authentic about that and just let you know it won't happen overnight, but it will happen. And sometimes it'll happen like when you least expect it. A lot of my things aren't like, oh wow, I did this thing for 3 weeks and then bam, or I did this thing for 6 months. One day I'll just be like, wow, that thought's not hunting me as much anymore.
Yeah.
Wow, I feel freer in this area. It just kind of surprises you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, I mean, I totally get what you're saying. And because there's an effort and intention a part of
Mhm.
this journey, right? It's like, it's not a passive journey for sure. You have to be able, I think it's kind of similar to like a gym workout. Like people know in their head what to do, like so many reps of whatever. But then it's like, are you doing it? That's the difference. And that's
Yeah.
the same thing for our mental health, emotional health. It's like, are all these things a checklist, or are you in that mental gym and emotional gym and working it every day? And even it's also seasons too. Like I'll have seasons where I'm focusing in on one thing. I have seasons where I've pulled back. I have seasons where, I stopped going to the gym type thing, which I think is super normal for a lifestyle change, which is what we want people to have. Is like, if I look
Yeah.
back, so I probably started, well, I think I originally started therapy like 24 years ago. But as far as like real a breakthrough in emotional health and all that stuff has really been 6 to 10 years, I would probably say. Because before that, therapy can only help you so far, especially talk therapy and
Yeah.
some of that stuff. I didn't get a ton of breakthrough with talk therapy, but as far as like these programs and things I've been doing like massively changed my life. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like trees and then forest, right? The trees are get in there, do the work, changing the thought processes, taking care of your heart. But then the forest part is I look back 6 years ago, 10 years ago, and I'm like, my life is massively different than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I am massively
Yeah.
different than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I used to think like, man, I need to change so much. And I would be offended by that. And it's not your personality. I used to think it was me because I was bad and like not good enough, right?
Mhm.
And God wanted to change me. And it's like now I know that God wanted to peel back all the layers of trauma and abuse and self neglect and self hatred so that the real Courtney could shine through. It was actually the opposite of what I thought. I thought I wasn't good enough and he was going to change me. And he's like, no, no, no. Actually, you're
Yeah.
just covered because you were good enough. You just got covered up. And so it's kind of this
Yeah.
undoing journey of like, quit doing all those things that you do to cover the person that I made you to be. Um,
Mhm.
and so that is kind of amazing. Just like you're saying, you look back and you're like, wow, the thing I've been working on, I got breakthrough along the way, and sometimes you can miss it because you just look back and you're like, wow, that's not even a part of my life, like something I did
Yeah.
years ago. I don't even do that anymore, and so
Yeah.
it's so worth it to me. I'm like, it's so worth it if you want financial breakthrough, emotional, mental, relationships. I mean, I'm a parent, I have 3 children, and I wanted
Yeah.
to leave a better legacy for my children than I was given. That was a massive intention and motivation in my life. And I was able to do that. Wow, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, because we're at 3 minutes left. I saw
Oh,
the
really?
clock. Yeah,
Okay.
I saw the
Well,
clock and my
oh
brain was
yeah.
like, oh. So I don't
I
know
think,
where that thought was going, but anyway.
yeah, I think that was a good point, Courtney. And although we're saying like this stuff can take a long time, um, there's also ways to kind of catapult it or give you a blueprint. So when Courtney and I met in the program Alive and Free, Sammy and Spencer had taken like 10 years of healing and put it into 9 weeks. So it kind of gave us a blueprint to go by. And
Yeah.
Courtney was saying that she's been in therapy like 24 years. Do I remember that correctly? And
Mhm.
I've been in therapy 11 years. So now I've taken like 11 years of emotional healing, cognitive behavioral therapy,
Yeah.
nervous system regulation, and I put it in like a 12 to 14-week course. So there are ways to catapult it and to get a blueprint because then you have something to look back on. So that's why I push mentorship. Like I've really benefited from it, and Courtney has benefited from it as well. But you do got to put in the work. Um, Earlier, Courtney said something about like no one's going to go to the gym for you.
Hmm.
There's another phrase that says no one's going to do your push-ups. Like we may know what to do, but until we do it, it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah.
And God will reward your effort. He will reward it. He says, seek, seek until you find. Like he's going to be there with you every step of the way.
Yeah.
So trust the process and trust the journey. Like you don't want to step into perfectionism. Another lady that me and Courtney are working with right now, Sammy, she says perfection is poverty. So you don't want to like do this perfect, give yourself grace in the process, but
Yeah.
you do have to be intentional about it.
Yeah. That's good. Well, and one thing
Yeah.
I find is interesting because I do think like people can choose in to whatever level of emotional healing or freedom or whatever you want to call it that you want, right? And also,
Yeah.
seasons are going to be different. So maybe you're at the beginning of your journey and you're like, I'm scared to start, and you only want to press in a little bit. Or maybe
Yeah.
you're like, wow, I'm overwhelmed with my work and I need to pull back. There's going to be times where it's like you're going all in, and there's times where you're like medium, and there's times where you put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
And there's so much flexibility. But what I find is interesting is I love to hear people talk about there's somehow we as humans, we always know what our next breakthrough is. Have you noticed that with people? Like I don't know, even people that maybe I would classify, and this isn't a judgment, but classify as maybe not super intelligent. No, sorry, not, I meant to say not super emotionally intelligent. Well, that was rude.
Got it.
Either way, I
Phrasing.
don't, we can leave it in. But there's emotional intelligence, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying people that maybe aren't on a journey like this or haven't spent a lot of time with it,
Mhm.
there's something about like our soul and our spirit knows what we need to do in our lives. So we
Mhm.
can look at what's bringing us turmoil. Like maybe I, like you said before,
Yeah.
like maybe I don't speak up at work. Maybe I let
Yeah.
people all over me. Maybe I know I'm not, taking care of my finances well. It's like
Yeah.
we have this ability to know where we're struggling and what's kind of causing us pain, and
Yeah.
we'll put up with it for so long until we're ready to face it.
Hmm.
And you don't even need
Yeah.
to
I
be
agree.
equipped. You don't need to be equipped with all of these things, even though, like, I'm on the flip side, I'm so with you in that breakthrough can be multiplied when you work with
Yeah.
someone who has the breakthrough that you have. Like, I don't know how you chose your coaches and mentors, but I would look at what they had and I would be like,
Hmm.
okay, do they have the confidence? Do they have the freedom? Do they have like the thing that I'm missing? That emotional intelligence, the relationship style. Like that's how
Yeah.
I sought after coaches and programs and mentors or whatever. It was like, I want the thing that they have. So I want them to implement
Yeah.
it. I want them to teach me about it. I want, the breakthrough that they had. It's almost like I don't know what you would call the word. It's like it is condensed. Like laundry soap, how they started taking out the water and it's more condensed
Yeah.
now. What's the word for that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't
Concentrated.
concentrated. Thank you. That's the word I
Yeah.
was trying to think of. It's like,
Yeah.
but breakthrough is the same way. When you've had someone who has done the work, pushed in,
Yeah.
learned the process, just like you
Yeah.
said, you've taken everything and brought it down to tangible 12 weeks, of steps that someone can go through. It's like concentrating the process for somebody
Yeah.
in order to give it to them and for them to speed up the process. So I do think it's both. It's like, yes, it's not going to
Yeah.
happen overnight. You have to do the work, but also you can catapult yourself into the next like stage or level of your life or whatever you want to call it by leaning on people that have the breakthrough that you've wanted. And I will continue to do that for the rest of my life, I think, because I'm constantly looking, I'm growing as a person, and changing as a person, and new people come into your foreground, just like Sammy you mentioned, and
Yeah.
you just connected me with her like last month or something like that,
Yeah.
6 weeks ago, where talking to her,
Yeah.
it was like, wow, we both have something to offer each other. And our
Yeah.
paths are crossing in this season for a moment or for like a reason. And so I don't know. I just think it's a really cool thing, whether you're intentional or whether you are overwhelmed in a moment and you have to kind of back off and say like, because there is kind of this pressure in the world today too to like heal and grow, and it's like
Yeah.
those can be beautiful things, but just like you said earlier, if you start to lean into perfection, it can kind
Yeah.
of taint your journey to a point where it's like no longer nurture and care and love and growth and it's this like, coming from this place that could be
Yeah.
harmful to you. So it's like stepping back and allowing yourself to go on the next steps for you. And people know
Mhm.
what that is. They know, like, oh, this is what I need to work on in my life and what I'm ready for.
Yeah. I 100% agree. It's like, what is the next step? You don't have to think 500 steps ahead unless you're vision casting, but that's another thing.
Sure.
Um, and you said something else too. Where did it go? Oh, well, I think you might have said it a while back, but like your gifts and your strengths and things like that. And just kind of knowing your seasons. There might be like a
Yeah.
season for rest or a season to really go hard and all those things.
Yeah.
And a couple things that come to my mind is just like knowing who you are and knowing your makeup in the sense where I'm going to recommend two books. The first one is Strengths Finders 2.0. I'm obsessed with that book and that assessment, and I will be until the day I die.
Okay.
Instead of focusing on like, things that you can grow in, it focuses on things that you're already naturally good at.
Yeah.
So for me, some of them are like positivity, harmony, communication. And so it gives me tools to like enhance those gifts.
Yeah.
It kind of goes into your learning styles. Are you audible? Are you tactile? Things like that. Another book I want to recommend is Atomic Habits by James Clear, and these will be in the show notes. But that one, it goes into like the psychology of habits. So if you are not a morning person, do not get up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym. Maybe you are an evening person, or maybe you enjoy walks in nature opposed to running on the treadmill.
Yeah.
So finding what works for you, and then leaning into that. Also, making your habits easy. So if you want to take vitamins more and you know that you have to brush your teeth every day, which you really should be, put your vitamins next to your toothbrush. So you take your vitamins before you brush your teeth. So
Yeah.
it's really just, aligning your habits with your makeup. And I think that is so fascinating. My sister and I are reading the book again, and just to again enhance our habits and know what works for us. Oh, there's a lot of flexibility and creativity in how God created us, and there's not like a one size fits all.
Yeah.
So I recommend those books, and if you do happen to read them, put them in the comments. Let me know what you thought.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Sweet. Yeah.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
good stuff.
I
Well,
think,
good. I
yeah.
think that's all the time we have today, but thank you, Courtney, for being here. And we're going to have her on again. I know this collaboration is going to go a
Yeah.
lot further than what it is. She's a great person to talk to, and
Yeah.
she just has so much knowledge. So stay tuned for that. And then also, I do want to invite you ladies all to an event that we're doing. It's Blissful Balance, and it's going to be on May 3rd, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. CST. And it's just going to talk about going into springtime and like having that balance, taking care of yourself, mind, body, and soul. So Courtney's going to be one of my speakers. And then another lady, Michelle, is going to be there too. So we would love to have you. The event's free, and that will also be in the show notes as well. So stay tuned, and we'll talk to you later.